All right, Jay-Z. Here we go. Good evening. Let's see who's sponsoring our show this week. Hazmat 101 Consultants. Hazmat 101 and their instructors can provide quality consulting and virtual or in-person hazardous materials training for your agency. Owner and lead instructor Bob Cascignano is also available for lecturing at your fire or hazmat conference and has in fact done many speaking engagements across the country. Visit their website at www.hazmatconsultants.com or email Bob Cascignano at bob@hazmat101consultants.com. For over 20 years, K&R Plaques have had the pleasure of helping clients choose awards for their people they want to honor. Their state-of-the-art equipment allows clients to design, customize, and personalize the awards they choose for that special somebody. With one of the largest selections of plaques, awards, trophies, and clothing apparel, they can deliver quality products to satisfy any customer's needs. No order is too big or small. Visit their website at www.knrplaques.com or email at sales@knrplaques.com. Responder Training, RTE, is the leading company in delivering propane training along with emergency response equipment. Responder Training has many propane flaring kits, water injection kits, accessories, and replacement parts available. They also sell the only commercial available 1-inch propane flare kit appropriately named the Dragon Slayer, because size does matter. Contact our good friend, owner, instructor, Ron Huffman, for more information. You can reach him at 765-524-4848. You can email Ron at respondertraining@rdh.com, at gmail.com, or peruse his website at respondertraining.com. If you would like to sponsor this show and help keep live hazmat conversations coming in the future and help send at least one lucky participant to a national level hazmat conference, send an email to bob@thehazmatguys.com and he will send you the information. Thanks. Now on with the show.
Awesome work, man. Incredible. How is everybody doing tonight?
I'm dark.
Indeed you are. I'm here with Mike Monaco, Travis Rubello, guest speaker. Very happy to have you, benevolent and altruistic as you are, and the the golden voice Jay-Z, Jeff Zintak, up in the top left. Incredible. He is running a marathon. As he's doing that, just tremendous cardiovascular capacity that he has.
I ran it backwards.
And backwards with rollerblades. All right.
Next time I'm doing it on my hands.
Rollerblades. What is it, 1992?
It's 92. Yes, it is. In order to get this thing going, I just want to let you know that I hope, if there is a possibility of being more engaged into the show, and the reason why is because we have our producer. We have Ben Herskowitz. He is helping out a lot of you that are in the groups that are watching and everything. If Ben is quarterbacking this show, and if it fails, it's because of I'm joking. It is not because of Ben.
It's all Ben's fault.
It's all Ben. No, Ben is pulling the strings, and he is doing I'm sure a fantastic job. So thank you. And right off the bat with that, Bob is off on assignment. I'm going to call it loosely that. He's finally getting it fixed. I'll leave you guys with what he's getting fixed. He's finally getting. It was obvious. It was just people were running, and there was babes in the shopping mall that were shielding their children's eyes from it, and finally he's getting it fixed. So kudos to you, Bob.
It was horrific.
Yeah, it was. I don't even want to speak about it because it makes me it gives me a little the GERD.
Oh, I thought you
GERD.
It gets the juices flowing upwards. But today's topic is that poultry plant in Atlanta. Was it Atlanta? No, it was not Atlanta. Jay-Z, why don't you tell us about it?
Gainesville, Georgia.
Okay.
That's close.
Gainesville. Yeah, it's close.
South of us.
Yeah.
It's south. Close enough. All right. Thanks for signing in, guys. Good talking to you. All right. Give us the synopsis. What happened?
So 10 a.m., they got a report that they had an explosion in a facility.
Okay.
And they said it was a nitrogen leak. The explosion was later denied, apparently, after all went down. But ultimately, and we don't know what happened, but ultimately, 6 people died. 12 were treated and sent to the hospital. 4 of them firefighters.
Wow.
So we've done a little research on it, but there's not a whole lot that. We could talk about obviously what was possibly going on. Talk about tactics and stuff like that.
Do we know at all what the injuries from the firefighters were?
They were all respiratory injuries. 3 of them were released that night. 1 stayed was seen overnight. My assumption was they made entry to possibly do a rescue, and maybe they were in a low oxygen environment and they started feeling the effects. Now, this is all speculation on my part, obviously.
Yeah,
right.
And again, just to get out in front of it, we are not hindsight. What do they call it? Armchair
20
quarterback.
20 quarterback or something like that.
20 quarterback. I'm not a big sports guy, but I know that we're not really looking down our extremely long noses at these people. We're just kind of like trying to take this scenario, because I don't want anybody having any hurt feelings. If you were in that position, I don't know any guys from Gainesville, Georgia, but we're not looking at your operation and kind of, upending it.
Yeah. We did that before the show started. We were saying, why aren't they wearing a mask?
Totally trash you guys. So
yeah,
that's all over.
We got it out of our system.
Armchair. Thank you, Scott. Todd. So there was 4 people that had respiratory illness. Does that include like getting sick because they don't have enough oxygen? Like, is that an asphyxiant term? I don't know, because this is like, I'm sure this is coming from the news, and these are the same guys that say the firefighters went into the building with their oxygen cylinders on. Like, it's just not true. We don't do that.
It's definitely hard to say, and that's why they said 5 died at the plant, and to me, because 5 died at the plant and 1 died at the hospital, what that says to me, in my mind, is that 5 died there and they were left there. 1 they thought they had a chance with and took them to the hospital. That, I don't know, that unless this is just what the news is reporting, I just found that kind of odd. In terms of that, they said 5 died at the plant. They 5 died at the plant there, and the only thing I could think about is one of the witnesses said there was a large white cloud. Perhaps the area was filled with vapors and so much that they didn't want to enter, and maybe they got them later, and by that time it was too late. I don't know. I have no idea. And the other thing I thought was, and I put this in, it sounds a little bit sexist, but I don't mean it to be sexist, but 5 of the people were men, 1 woman, which I found odd. I mean, just because that's the way my mind works, I'm an odd person, but was she like maybe a...
family show.
Administrative person? Administrative person that it got into an area. Or was she coming out? She was self-evacuating. She ran through the cloud, was overcome. Because this is the other thing, is they found a white cloud. Well, we all know about nitrogen. It's odorless and colorless, except in large quantities, right?
Well, is it in large quantities, or is it coming from a liquid state? Well, that produces the cloud.
True, but the cloud was moving, is what one of the witnesses said. So there was a large amount of nitrogen there. And then we talked about this prior to coming on, is that the State Fire Marshal Office ruled out the shutoff valve because they said they shut that off before they started maintenance on the line. And then we talked about that, beforehand. Was that just residual in there? Because it could have been a lot more, perhaps.
There's two good comments in there, and one we're going to answer in a second about the cryo injuries, but one of them is saying that you have to always have your meters, especially when you're going to be monitoring the oxygen level. Travis, in this situation, would you have your 4-gas, or would you have anything else, maybe that you locally have, or something like that? What would be your metering cache on this?
Well, before he answers that, are we talking about operations level, or are we talking about a technician level?
That's important, because Gainesville was the first unit on scene, and they're a smaller department, and by all my looks, they don't have a hazardous materials unit.
You know what? Let's split it out. Why don't you do operations first? What's your first two companies going to have, and then go up to the technician level and break out what would change in that operation?
So, the first two company I would hope has some type of metering technology, but as you guys discussed in some of your problems, when we're talking about waiting for a meter to tell us that there's an oxygen deficient atmosphere, we're kind of in the weeds already, right? I mean, going in, we're seeing clouds, we're seeing an issue. We should have respiratory protection on. Our first two companies, the signs and symptoms of what's going on here really should kind of dictate it long before our metering capability comes into play here. I would hope my guys have respiratory protection on.
Yeah, and I agree. And I know one of the problems we have with CO2 distribution in where we're at is guys know that it's not flammable, it's not toxic, so it doesn't bring with them.
They downplay the threat.
Downplay the threat, and even going in possibly in just bunker pants and an SCBA. And one of my battalion chiefs said, "Hey, we're not going to do that. We're going to be full gear, face piece on, and go in." So who knows? But if you know the characteristics, you're like, well, you can go in a bikini as long as you have an SCBA on.
Right.
Correct.
Mike, What do you think?
I always go in a bikini either way. Always.
Chlorine, ammonia.
I said that because I knew you did.
It's my lucky bikini. I wear it every time I work. I think that unfortunately, when you start dealing with operations level, we do not keep our operations level from a countrywide perspective. This is not specific to one department, although mine is very much in this realm. Is that we don't provide our operations level personnel enough hazmat training. They get the original hazmat operations where they're bombarded by behavioral models and all this other nonsense that they never apply and never use.
Besides,
I love the behavior.
Drill instructors that go, "You better learn," and you're just screaming at you, right?
Yeah. So then we set them off into the world, and we do not, continue to drive home the point that your primary mission is life. Put on your SCBA, put on your bunker gear, go into the situation, get the person, get them out. And for an operations level person, it doesn't really matter what the meters are saying, because even if you took something like, well, they don't know what that cloud is. Okay, fine. If you took the point of view of they don't know what the cloud is, then we can take a look. What would be the worst case scenario in a plant like that would be ammonia. And I say ammonia because you have the flammability and you have the corrosive issue when it comes in contact with water. And we know from previous events like ammonia releases that happened up in Boston that you will, as a first due firefighter, you should be pushing in to get as far as you can. And the moment your skin starts to burn or you can't make it any further, that's it. You draw the line because you're there for life, right? And if you're in full PPE, bunker gear and SCBA, and you can't make it any further, there's no life beyond that point. So
good point.
We really,
very good point.
We really have to start to refocus our hazmat operations, like the firefighters, to really understand what it means, how critical their split-second decision to put on your SCBA, put on your bunker gear, go in there and try to find somebody, go as far as you can. If for whatever reason you're pushed out, there's no life. And not worry about, should I put my mask on, shouldn't I? No, just put your mask on. Yeah. Even if you don't know what it is, put your goddamn mask on. What's the harm? You have to switch out your bottle at the end. I'm annoyed that firefighters went to the hospital with respiratory difficulties. I'm annoyed, and I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking, but as a just general comment, like, why are you going in without an SCBA? Like, why are you putting yourself in a position where you're in a plant, right? There's a chemical release of some sort. Why are you not wearing an SCBA? Where are we falling short as hazmat professionals, teaching less, for lack of better words, trained or qualified people to do emergency response, and when they get on scene, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing?
It's a good point. In the fire side, they call that situational awareness. Mm-hmm. Right. It's risk a lot to save a lot. Risk a little to save a little. And and inevitably in the class, they show you a window in a framed house, and they show it just pushing fire square. And they're like, how many guys are going to push into that window? And a lot of guys don't put up their hand. Maybe one or two idiots will do it. And they're like, and they look at everybody else and they go, well, you're not going to push? You're not going to try to say grandma? They just said she's in there. She just talked to them. And they wait for more hands to go up, and they're like, who's living in that square of fire? And that's really what it comes down to. Like, if it's pushing square out of the window in the fire terms, what you're saying is the equivalence of that same thing, is that, if it starts hurting you at a certain point, there's no one beyond you that's making it. That's a good point.
So I can answer a couple of questions that I see coming up. And if there were any cryo injuries, somebody called and said that they had a potentially somebody who's frozen from the liquid nitrogen. And my initial thought when I heard about this was that maybe they had the explosion with the nitrogen. A lot of the people were burned from the release. But then they said it wasn't an explosion. But they did say that some people appeared to be frozen.
So then here's the question is what are they defining as an explosion? Because one person's explosion may not be another person's BLEVE. So, for example, if they had a large, and we were talking about this beforehand, let's say they had a large pipe of liquid nitrogen and that shutoff valve was off, or somehow that pipe became isolated from the system, and now you are literally having a BLEVE inside a pipe. And we understand that you don't need fire to have an explosion, but the media or a reporter or whoever is reporting this may not fully understand that. So when they say, hey, was there an explosion? And they're thinking, well, there was no bomb, there was no fireball, there was no fire. So no, there was no explosion. Whereas we look at an explosion as, okay, clearly from what you're saying, it sounds like there was some kind of a BLEVE within the system, right? Something failed catastrophically enough to make the sound of an explosion. It sounds like crap went everywhere, probably rapidly pushed all the oxygen out of the room, froze people pretty damn quick, and everybody else dropped from lack of oxygen.
I think that's a really good scenario. I think that
very plausible.
Yeah, very plausible, as a matter of fact.
There's a couple of really good comments in here, and I'd like to go around and kind of get your ideas. Is that, how do we convince the higher ups and the operations level people to implant this idea that we just spoke about? Wearing your SCBA, observing, using your common sense, your five senses, etc. What would be your pitch to the higher ups to say, we need to implement this from your position? I'll start with Jeff.
Well, I think what I did is it's easy for us because, hazmat goes to, all the calls that have the hazmat, and they're just there. Our first responders are just there for a short time. So when we get there, if something is, perhaps they did something that wasn't, what I thought was right, we'll have a talk with them. And a lot of times after they get done, they'll come up to us and say, hey, did we do everything okay? Now, in the case of this situation, Gainesville Fire, they're a smaller department. They do mutual aid with Hall County, which has a hazmat unit, which probably came. I don't know what their relationship is, but, I think special operations is a huge, huge thing that should be taught to, all fire companies. The problem is, in our area, we just want to do natural gas for our first responders, and our guys, our higher ups say, we don't have time. We got EMS, we've got fire training, we've got, whatever training, diversity training, whatever, and that pushes out the special ops training. We've tried for years and years. It's really difficult. These are good examples of why their hazmat training for first responders is essential.
I like it. But Mike, what would be your
my pitch would be, I would request a meeting in person, and I would let them know that I'm going to come in my full dress A, my full class A, with all of the medals on my chest that I have from saving lives in hazmat. And when I show up and my chest is bare, because those in hazmat don't save lives, I can then start the conversation by saying it is the first two companies that are coming in, rolling up on a hazmat run that is going to be the life rescue. And you are doing yourself you're doing yourself and the people that you've sworn to protect a great disservice when you don't train the guys who are actually going into a hazmat scene to get life, when you're not training them properly. Because I'm not the one going in to make a rescue. I don't get those medals. I turn valves.
Travis.
So, I deal with two groups of guys, right? I got firefighters in my home department that are first responder level, and I also have technicians on the other end of the house. My motivation level of my guys on the technician side of the house usually isn't a problem. They're easy to deal with. How I've found with my guys on the home department is I found that the course I'm taking now is I'm taking it. We're a waterfront community, a large fishing community. We have a lot of ammonia problems. We're good for a few ammonia leaks a year that are pretty sizable. They understand the hazard of that. They see the value in understanding that. So I've kind of keyed in on ammonia, and I've taught them how to respond to ammonia and the hazards that have to do with ammonia. Now, hopefully, the knowledge they're taking from that will kind of branch out into the other hazards in the city, which also we have natural gas, we have different chemical processes, we have a ton of industrial problems in here. But knowing what they know from the ammonia issues, being able to start keying in on stuff, hopefully that transfers over to other hazards, and we start migrating into those other problem areas. And they, the responsibility levels kind of transfer from one side to the other on that. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's the plan.
It's a plan.
Yeah.
My tactic to fix that is that you attack the brass, if you would. If you convince a chief that commands 6 captains, and you say, this is why, if I'm wearing it, everybody else should be wearing it, and they go, what, that's a good point. And then those 6 captains, and at a certain point, it's like pulling a lawnmower. Once you pull it over a certain point, the thing kicks over and keeps going. And so if I tell enough captains and enough chiefs that this is why you need to do this, eventually it's that whole paradigm building. And this is a positive paradigm of why we want to wear it. If you see hazmat wearing their SCBAs, it's generally a good idea to wear your SCBA because at least that's at least the guys that know where to run. If they're running in a certain direction, stay in that direction. I don't care if you can go fast than me. I'm going to trip you. But it's not like a bear attack. But at the same time, I'm going to go in the right direction So if you see the guys in the hazmat, and I think that's what you got to do is kind of like if the hazmat is doing something, and we just had an incident. I think me and Mike just talked about on a recent podcast where we asked companies to separate out cylinders, and companies just started doing what they wanted to. And so if we don't maintain control over that whole, not only just like the scene, but just the thought, like the idea of, listen, when we have a hazmat, we put on our SCBA. If you're metering for a purpose, you will have your SCBA on. That might be the best way to say it. If you're metering for a reason, you have your SCBA with it.
And for an operations level, if a person went down and you don't know why, put your SCBA on. If there's an explosion and you don't know why, put your SCBA on.
These are good rules, guys. Write these things down.
If somebody farts, put your SCBA on.
What's the rule for confined space? 60% of the people that die in confined space are rescuers. So sometimes, if somebody's down at the bottom of a hole, or somebody's in a room and there's vapor or there's something in there, it should be that thing that goes off in your head and said, that's not right. And you have it on your back anyways. You should.
It's free.
You should.
I don't think any unions in the United States right now are charging for air, although I don't know if that's going to change in the near future. Bob Hand says that hazmat is the plumbing business and the first in units are in the life-saving business. I cannot agree more. Thank you. That was a good one.
One more thing somebody mentioned, was this maintenance or repairs? It was an unplanned maintenance being done on a recently installed processing and freezing line, and the line ruptured. So and when I look at the overhead view of it, I can't find the nitrogen tanks. I know Google Earth is old, but I think this whole system is fairly new, because I couldn't find the nitrogen tanks in the current.
So there was a lag in the mapping of that facility.
Yeah, I think I know where they are. I think I know where they are now, but when they took that shot, they're not there. But again,
I will. What's that?
I was just going to say, but then again, that doesn't really matter to us. What matters to us is what's our tactic, because that already happened. But what matters to us is, what do we do here now that we have these people down in this situation?
I wonder how
Google Maps is a little behind.
I wonder how a thermal imaging camera would look in a vapor release like that. Like if I'm standing in a room with a massive vapor release, that kind of cold vapor all over the place, and I'm looking through my thermal imaging camera, I wonder wonder what that will look like. I wonder if I'd be able to see a body.
Smoke it works for, but I don't think it works for. I think fog, it comes back as a white cloud.
It does, right? Like, because you're talking about
a black cloud.
You're talking about water droplets.
It's reflective.
And it's reflective, right? It doesn't. IR doesn't really go through it as readily as smoke or like a window doesn't allow the IR to. So I wonder if even the thermal imaging camera is just total waste. I mean, it's not a waste of time, but you're not gonna, you're going back to that. I'm pretty much blind, just doing a blind
Mike Allen
search.
says black. Yeah, it is black. Black is cold.
It is.
Yeah. That's I wonder what that, because chemistry, chemicals. I don't know. Well, a lot of them, I'm going to say all of them, are done by fire standards and not by chemistry standards. I wonder what would happen with that. The only one I know of that really, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only one that I know of that has a actual hazmat mode is the Draeger, Mike?
Draeger.
Yeah, the Draeger has a hazmat mode. But again, all that's doing is a normal thermal imaging camera, what Bob is referring to, a normal thermal imaging camera gives you images based upon really large differences in temperature, right? It doesn't really, like if it's different colors, you're talking like hundreds of degrees before you get different colors. The Draeger has a really awesome camera that will literally allow you to go down to colors within a degree separation. But I don't even know if that heat would get to the camera for the camera to see it if you have all this cold vapor in front of you.
I smell a YouTube video.
Me too. We're still getting guys killed on this one.
All right, last time was your turn. Last time was your turn. We did rock, paper, scissors. I guess I lose this one. All right, I'll go.
I enjoyed that level A one.
Oh, Todd said they used it in the Draeger 9000, which I believe is the one that we're using. Is they use it on the BHO study. So yeah, that is a pretty good meter. We're not promoting anything or not, but that is a really good one. But good show tonight, guys. Any wrapping up questions before we take it home? Travis?
No, good.
No,
I got nothing.
Bob says thank you for coming in.
yeah, no. I think you know, I'd like to know what the first responders did and stuff, because that's really what we're talking about. And I don't have too much of a problem with what happened. I mean, you don't want them to go to the hospital, but I think it sounds like they tried to do some rescues, but who knows?
Yeah, at least they went in.
At least they went in.
At least they went in. I can give them credit for not being chicken.
They were observed inside the structure, so yeah, yep, absolutely.
No,
It'll definitely be interesting to follow up to hear what the OSHA reports come out of this. I'd really be interested to see how the studies end out on this.
Unfortunately,
I get nothing on the chicken joke. Nothing.
No crickets.
No, nothing.
Poultry plant, chicken.
Nothing.
Oh, you guys are killing me. Killing me.
Heard it and disregarded it immediately.
Ah.
All right, Jeff, take it home, baby.
All right. Well, that's it for the show. We have some sponsors that we'd like you to check out. Hazmat 101 Consultants, K&R Plaques, and Responder Training. Give them some love, huh? And
Nice.
Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it.
Guys, we'll see you next week. Bye.